try to be really clear on who's doing what. That is the key. Who's going to be doing these things, who's going to be doing those things. And so a lot of time works out this, like maybe the guy's doing the training or vice versa, and the other person doing the marketing, the admin, and the bills and all those kind of things, right? That's what generally happens when business is on the growth trajectory. The person in there and the other person is going to help in the back end, the admin, the marketing, the sales, and that kind of stuff. Welcome back to the Marketing Muscle Up podcast show. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I thought I would bring you a bit of an insight of how you can work better, work smarter, and work with better intent if you're working with your other half, spouse, husband, wife, lover, whatever that may be for you. I've actually had experience working with family, brothers, sister-in-laws as well, so I can talk about that. But today's episode is specifically working with your spouse. Now, for those who don't know, my wife, Joey, is also works in the business of comm marketing. And we've been doing not this just for comm marketing, we've been doing it for every business we've had. We've had around, 4 over this period and a whole bunch of different projects over the last, probably 20 years. And I thought I'd share some insights on that because I don't think not many people talk about it. And we certainly don't talk about it a huge amount because I think sometimes it's one of those things that happen. But more and more I see, especially our clients, they are working with their partners and their spouses and their wives and their husbands. And it's a thing that sometimes doesn't work for a lot of people. A lot of people just cannot do it at all. And there's a lot of people that want to do it, but struggle. And there's some people that seem to be doing an okay job of it. And I think I'm one of those people. We've been doing it for a while now and never really talked about it a huge amount. She has been on this show. We did an episode previously where Ev interviewed us both about how we kind of work together. I do believe that was in season 2. You can check that out. I'll find that episode and you can check out that one. But this one's, I'm just going solo and I'm going to give you some quick tips to follow through. So if this resonates with you, this is going to be great. And I kind of thought about this morning as I was sort of putting this together because it comes up more than I've probably got a course or really talk about a huge amount. And so I do want to break this down because in small businesses, we do rely on our partners. We rely on our wives, our husbands, whoever that special person is for you to keep the business rolling, to keep the business flowing, especially in the early stages when things are touch and go and not sure how you're going to make it week to week. You need those people around you. And there's a lot of conversations and talks about, that can kill a marriage. It can kill a partnership. Yep, it can. Definitely can. But I also think not working with your other half can also do that as well. That can do that because that other half, your partner, your husband, your wife, they don't know what you're doing. The other person's working long hours and it's also splits as well. So I don't think there's any one right or wrong way, but I mean, this is a path that I've gone down. So I'm happy to share it and happy to give you some insights into it. I've come up with a few points here and I might just, lay them out for you. And if anything, if you get one tip out of this, I really hope that helps you to have a more, loving relationship and a more successful business. Because I don't think you have to split the two. I think you can do them both well. And this has been, our experience. And I didn't ask Joey about these, but I'm pretty sure she'll be okay with them. All right. So number one, I just think first of all, for anything to work, there has to be a baseline. And when I say a baseline, I think if somebody's going in, new partner or new husband, new wife, new business, they may have kids in that relationship, new as well. That's definitely going to be a really challenging situation where you may not be able to come through that. There's a lot of new things going on there. So I think it's a layering approach, first of all. So definitely a layering approach. If I go back, in my relationship, I went in business first. I actually met Joey as I was a personal trainer. So she wasn't really working in my business for a good probably 2 years. Her, she had, I think she had a tutoring business at the time. So it was a relationship first. So in this situation, I think there's always going to be a first that you move into first. I think moving to 3 or 4 things at the same time, definitely doomed to be very challenging. So number one, have a baseline first. So something's happening first and you're bringing the other part into it. So you might have a relationship first, then you bring a work into it. We're having work first and you bring a relationship into it, whatever it is, but do it in stages, not all at the same time, because there's a lot of different emotions that go on at the same time. And you may not have that understanding of the other person of what to do and when to do and how to respond to different circumstances. Like when someone meets straight away and they have kids straight away, they haven't had time together one-on-one. So I do think that there is a really important time to have time together, prior to this, going into business, I mean. So number one, if you are in that point and hey, you've got a business and you're both working in it, my number one tip is definitely try to do different departments. Now, it might be a small business and you say departments. I don't have departments. Everybody's got departments. There's an admin section, there's a department, there's a marketing department, there's an accounts department, there's people training department, there's HR department. Even though there might be just you doing it, there are different departments. So try to be really clear on who's doing what. That is the key. Who's going to be doing these things, who's going to be doing those things. And so a lot of time works out this, like maybe the guy's doing the training or vice versa, and the other person doing the marketing, the admin and the bills and all those kind of things, right? That's what generally happens when business is on the growth trajectory. The person in there and the other person is going to help in the back end, the admin, the marketing, the sales, and that kind of stuff. And that's fine, but as long as it's really defined. What I think is not a good idea is if that other person, let's say the wife or the female, which I've seen a lot happen, is that they come on and they be the assistant. They be the, I don't have time for that. I'll do this. And that's okay if that's the role, if that's like, that's my role and there's a system around it. But when someone's piled on to your work that you haven't finished, that's not a good look. And it's very draining on a relationship because it's like, oh, that needs to be done. This needs to be done. And they didn't really know about that. So it's not like, don't pile on work. If it's starting to be that they're doing a lot of your work and they don't really have a position, start to create a position, a really clear position, have that conversation. Hey, do you want to do this? Yes or no? Or at that point there, if it's no, you're going to have to go find someone to actually do that role for you. So it can't be like they're doing their job in another company or they're looking after the kids and all of a sudden they're just piled onto all this stuff. That's going to be really challenging. So be really clear if that's going to move into a role or not in a different department, hopefully not the same thing as you, like really like you've got to have a little bit of space there. Number two, respect that you both need to learn things and go after them. So what I mean by that is that if you are wanting to learn a new skill, you need to go to a course or a conference. You don't both have to go. One of you can go, and that gives you a bit of time, a bit of breathing time to do that. So it might just be they need to go for a day to learn something, and then they can sort of do that. So you got to have that independence as well. So respect they're doing two different things. They might have 2 different meetings. You don't have to be on every single meeting. Okay. You don't have to be in every single conversation. Have that buffer time. Arguments. So if there's an argument that happens, what happens? Well, I've got this saying, it wasn't from me, it was one of my business partners. And we worked on it. It was like, if there comes an argument, you're not sure what to do. Basically, whoever has the first-hand knowledge. So me and Joe would say, well, okay, well, I want to do this way. Joe want to do it that way. And then we'd say, well, who's had the first-hand knowledge here, you or me? And the person who's had the first-hand knowledge wins the argument and they decide what to do. If there's nobody who has that first-hand information, then yeah, that's a bit different. It's the one that's actually going to makes logical sense and they go after that. I don't really have a solution on that one, but most of the time people have had first-hand experience or knowledge in this area. They've had more practice on it. They've read more books on it. So that's the one that they're going after. So have a kind of word or a theme. So the argument doesn't drag on all day. There's like, okay, there's no having an disagreement here. What do we do? The other thing too is a good avenue. If you want to avoid fights and in your relationship, never go to bed on a fight. It's pretty hard to work and have a relationship. So never let the clock over to midnight until you've sorted that out. That's just not a key for work. That's just more of a key to marriage. I believe that works quite well. As hard as it is to have that conversation at that point. Let's talk about work and travel. Work and travel. We've done a lot of travel trips and work trips in our time. So I think working together is a big plus. Why? Because you're going to find the opportunity to travel together. And you can do that if you have, something that you need to go down to a different state, or you may need to go to overseas with that. So find the opportunity to travel together, or again, you can travel apart as well. So find that opportunity. What about work and holidays? Well, conferences are a perfect way to take a holiday and to take a work trip. It's the best way. We've done it for years. Always go somewhere and we do a conference at the start, and then we'll extend it for a holiday after that. To me, I think that's the perfect way to blend the both in, and you can definitely do that. And, with that partner, because you can go to the same conferences together, the same holidays together. So it makes it really, really easy as well. We've gone on conferences with our kids as well. We've brought my mother-in-law around for that one, and they were able to stay with us. We've got a hotel room for them. You can get friends at that particular time, or they can come with you. So it just depends on that. But when you do have kids, there's a new level of organization of what that wants to look like. Work and family. You need to decide who is doing what and when. Boundaries is really important, especially, again, as I mentioned, if you do have kids, there will be boundaries that you'll need to put into place. And those boundaries are important for the sake of your family. So you need to decide who is doing what role, and who's taking the time off, who's picking the kids up, who's going to be doing those activities as well. And a good way to look at this is that if you're not going to be doing, like you say, I'm doing them, one of them is going to do the most amount of work, and that's generally the case when you are going to have kids. One of them will do the most amount of work, and one may do less physical, business work, but they may be picking up kids. And that's really important too. So both are equal, but you've got to decide who's going to be doing more on this in the business and more outside the business. And that's really important to make a directive decision on that. Because if not, what happens is your business is going to suffer. And I've seen it so many times before. Your marriage will suffer. Your business will suffer. There's a saying, happy wife, happy life. If you don't have a happy spouse, I tell you what, the business is not going to be happy, and that's going to suffer. So don't think of it as one doing more than the other. They're both equal in what they do, so you can run a successful business together, right? And that's really important, because otherwise the other one's going to get a job, and then you're going to be looking, you're going to have to, find ways to pick up kids and so forth. And so that's going to cost in different ways too. So you're going to really look at those and look at it as a holistic approach. Working every day, like every day. When I say every day, it could be, what do you do day to day? How do you make it work day to day? Well, the advantage here is we never do meetings inside the office. We've got a home office here now. We've got an office in Sydney. We never do that. We always do meetings outside, coffees, go for a walk along the beach. It might not start off with an official meeting. We have kind of an agenda we hope we get to. And when you're moving, when you talk it out, when you're in different environments, you can get a lot of inspiration that way. So sure, yep, those boring meetings tick off the box and so forth. But I always found that they're not going to go anywhere fast if I'm not in that zone to really help and support and come up with a great solution. Spaces around work. So if you kind of working in the same zone, we've worked in offices for 10 years, our office for 10 years in Sydney. We always worked in different rooms at different spaces. We never kind of saw each other most of the day, which I think's key, because you do need some buffer time as well, doing your own thing. I think that's really important. So don't be working on top of each other. Work and money. Let's talk about that one. Both people should be paid a wage. Both people should be paid a salary, whatever it looks like, or owner's drawing from the business based on what they're doing. Are they doing full-time or part-time? I don't think it has to be equal, by the way. It can be on, what you do as a job description, job role. And I think that's kind of good, because then if somebody else comes in and needs to replace that person, that really works well. What doesn't work well if there's actually, it's in those early stages, there's actually no official role title. There's no money coming from the role. is just a compile of things we haven't done. That is really stressful. So very early on, you need to understand what the job role is and what does it pay, or what does it pay and what can we pay? You know, you might be in those early stages where you just can't pay much, but at least there's a job role. At least there's a goal of what you're going to pay. And then you can make that happen. There's nothing better just on that. I don't think there's anything better than, growing a business together, husband and wife, spouse, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be. And you're actually, living on what you've created. I think that's really magical, and I think it's really special. And so, never not pay yourself. Never think that's, not important. That is really important. You're the backbone of the business in the early stages, of course. And that's really important to honor and to pay yourself to make that work. So they're kind of my tips. I might get some tips from Joey on this topic, working with your spouse successfully, I should say, and making the business be better for that. There's a lot of talk. You shouldn't work with your spouse. You shouldn't work with your partner, but I think it's totally rubbish. You totally can. And I've done it. I've got 20 years experience doing it. And if you haven't done it or you've suffered in it, that's okay too, because it wasn't meant for you. It's not meant for everybody, that's for sure. But if you are thinking about it, if you are trying it, if you're trying to make it work, definitely use some of these tips to your advantage to really reshape how or what you think work and working with your spouse is going to look like. So you have a good life and a good relationship and a good business. I think that's really important to mold into too. Guys, if you've got any more help with that, be happy to answer that if we jump on a marketing muscle up, if that's a roadblock that you've had. Even working with family, I've had a lot of experience working with family as well. Work with my brother, my sister-in-law, my father-in-law. So I've had a lot of experience there in over the years, cousins and that kind of stuff. So if it's something that's really slowing you down for growth or helping you to grow, would love to hear from you. Jump on our website, commarketing.com.au. You can fill our marketing muscle up, or jump on my Instagram, Richard Toutounji, spelled Toutounjai, and hit me up with message. I'd love to know how you're making it work for you. Thanks, guys. Until next time.